Namaskar, so good to have you today on the show. I know there were some technical difficulties in our live show yesterday, but this should not be any less than the live show. In fact, I'm hoping with Krishna's grace, it's even better. And of course, if there are any questions and comments coming from our audience, I'll make sure we get that answered at a later date. But thank you for doing this, and really looking forward for a intense 1 hour discussion on various topics.
Hare Srinivasa, Mahesh ji, a very good morning to you. And I really congratulate you on this wonderful, bringing up such wonderful shows. Ask Krishna is a nice concept, and I'm sure many will be benefiting from this. And so I will do my best to whatever I've learned at the humble feet of the humbly at the feet of gurus. I will try to share whatever I know, uh, Mahesh ji.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let us get going then, and let's make this real for everybody watching this, and everybody who will continue to watch this going forward. Because the topic of today, Dharma and Purusha Dharma, is not something that gets discussed in a realistic way. Every time you talk about Dharma, Purusha Dharma, there is a lot more religious association to it, and people get confused. I get all that, but what do I do? How do I get going? How do I make it real in my daily life? So we'll come to that in a minute. But before that, I want to start off with um, who actually influenced you, and what was the trigger for you getting on a spiritual path while you were like any other traditional individual going on with your normal life.
Actually, from my young age, I had observed my grandmother's orthodox lifestyle, and she had strong spiritual pursuits. And so, tradition was not anything alien to me, the orthodox style of living. But of course, later on, I was very much influenced by two great souls whom I was very fortunate to meet very early in my life. Uh, say, like even when I was doing my high school. Uh, so I had my fun, like a teenager or college going. I did have my fun of with hang out with my friends. I did go for movies and all that kind of thing was there. But somehow these two people who influenced me, uh, like it some kind of from something inside me, naturally there was a some kind of an inclination towards them and approaching them, talking to them and getting in touch with them. I wanted to learn something more. I knew that there's something more there. So that was the my natural inclination. So this was Sri Vishweshwar Tirtha Swamiji. He belonged to Bejawar Mata, one of the eight matas attached to the Udupi temple at Karnataka. Swamiji was actually a visionary, and in fact, I had the good fortune of making a documentary on him. And during the interview, he told me that even at the early age of 16, he was very much concerned about the society,
Hmm.
the people, and their spiritual pursuits, their connect with the temples and the matas. And so, after his formal education, he undertook a what to say extensive tour into in the society to get the first hand information. And so I should say we were one of the lucky families he visited at us at that time, in my grandmother's place. And but since my father got very attached to him at that time, and later on, but we had to move to the north. We were in the south,
Hmm.
actually, south of India. Then we had to move to the north due to my father's career. And but there again, what happened was, Swamiji had visited us even in our house at Patna. Mm, like uh, we were very lucky, very fortunate that time, because the day he arrived, we were living, say, about 6 kilometer away from Ganga, river Ganga.
Hmm. Hmm.
And suddenly, the day he arrived, it was announced that there was flash floods, and the entire the city was surrounded by water. The city was not flooded, but the city was surrounded and the highways were closed. So Swamiji had no choice. He had to just stay with us, not just for that day, but by Krishna's grace, he stayed with us for 10 days. And so that was the time. It was a great experience. I was, I think, in high ninth grade. And since then, like Swamiji, every day he used to give us lectures in the evenings. And one example which he gave really impacted me. Like
Hmm.
he said, like the eyelid, he gave the example of the eye and the eyelid.
Hmm.
The eye sees everything far and wide, but it does not see the eyelid, which is so close to it, protecting it, you know.
Hmm.
So similarly, we are also, he said, so engrossed in this world created by God, whatever he has given us, but we unfortunately we forget him, who is so close to us, who is within us, and he's protecting us, you know. So that was a example, one of the things I remember those times, what he said. Of course, there are many things I remember, but these are the few things which really remained in my memory. And later on, in when I came to college, I met my professor, Srimati Prema Pandrang. She
Hmm.
was an English professor and very spiritually inclined, and she was an English lecturer giving spiritual. She was a great spiritual exponent. So my association with her was also very memorable. Like, in fact, I used to accompany her to her lectures wherever she went to different places, and her lectures were very lucid and heart touching. She we I had lessons with her in Ramayana and Bhagavata and all that. So that time, I met many families, Maheshji. Like, they were so affluent and socially highly placed families, and
Hmm.
yet I saw their culture. I saw how humble they were. They were so grounded to spirituality. So all these things inspired me a lot. I said, if I live, I should live like that, you know. So that kind of an inspiration I got at that time. So that's how I started my life. In fact, I did my interior designing and all that, but somehow always my inclination was more towards spiritualism.
This is fascinating, fascinating, and there's three takeaways from what you just said, which I think are super valuable. Number one was um, the grace because of which you had exposure at a very young age to Pejawar Swamiji, to Swamiji coming to your place, and the fact that he was there, you got exposure, and he was able to spend some time with you there. The second one, and we'll come to that topic in a little bit more because I'm keen to understand. Um, there is something called grace, I believe, as well. Like in your case, you had that exposure, but there are many who probably will not have that exposure. So we'll come to that
Definitely.
in a minute. But that's the first takeaway I have. The second takeaway, I think the example of the eye and eyelid is fascinating. It is fascinating. It is probably the first time actually I've heard that example. I've heard a lot more different analogies. This example has been fascinating. And I think it clearly communicates how we are close to divinity, but we don't recognize divinity clearly. And the third one, I could relate that myself when the individuals I've come across and seen, the individuals who have combination of tradition, religion, and spirituality,
Hmm.
somehow they seem to be very humble.
Definitely, I agree
Uh,
with you.
yeah, they seem, because I've seen individuals who, again, I don't want to criticize or don't want to make any comment on anybody, but I've seen if you don't have a combination of these three, then there could be some element of whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
um, the myself kind of feeling, right? But
Hmm.
individuals with a combination of these three always seem to be very humble. very
Mm-hmm.
humble, down to earth. They treat everyone equal, and that, I think, is a spark that you feel when you are with them.
Definitely.
So good, very good to hear those things and those takeaways. So let's get back. Let's talk a little bit on that topic. In today's day and age, and I've always felt this even in my interactions, not everyone has this opportunity to be with a learned soul, with a learned being, because the pressures of today's day and age, they're so busy working, they're so busy studying, and they don't get this opportunity where somebody can at least initiate that spark. What would you recommend, like, for those type of individuals growing up in a home? What would you say could be a trigger? Maybe one thing could be parenting, and I'm keen to hear about that from you as well. But yes, please go ahead and share some thoughts, because I think that is key in nowadays, that they need some trigger.
Well, yeah, it's very difficult because the outside world and the schooling and the workplace, everything is so different, like what we used to see those days and now.
Yeah.
Definitely, it is a lot of differences there. But I think everybody should stop and introspection is not there. They just blindly want to, like, especially after these mobiles and these new gadgets have come in. People are so engrossed in that, like, even small things like, they expect approval, likes, so
Mm.
many likes, so many followings, these things. There are so many good things which also come in these social media. So I think they have to just stop and you see, they also meet a lot of problems in their life. It's not that it's going to go on smoothly for them, but when that comes up, they have to stop and think why that thought should come to them. Only then they will start from there somewhere. Otherwise, the outside world is very harsh and it just pulls you into the only the material world. There should be a combination of, so for that, I think another thing they can do is connect with their parents, more of connect with the ancestors, go back to their I mean, to their native place, and try to connect with those their grand aunts, grand uncles. Somebody will be there, no? So visit them. At least these kind of things, no, may trigger, bring some trigger in them, trying to visit their yes, and they have to take their children also with them when they go. So these things may help them to find some of their roots, and try to, they might get, that's what I feel. I don't know. uh, so
It is so true, so true. In fact, we were having this discussion the other day where, um, you would remember when we were young, at least there was this time where grandparents or granduncles used to relate stories, parents used to relate stories. Could be mythology, could be fantasy, but still there was that connection established, and we used to read all those Amar Chitra Kathas and all those other at least to get started. But I find it unfortunate that with the current thing going on, with everybody being so busy, even parents themselves don't have the time. So I think, to your
mm,
point, even if those trips can be taken once a year, twice a year, whatever it is, and I love that comment you just made of go back to the place you came from, right? I mean, many of the Indian households have a last name that links to a village.
mhm, mhm.
Even if nobody is there, at least go back to that village once and see that village. See where you came from. No, absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. And I hope many more can do that. Have you noticed, you grew up in, I mean, of course, you had all this exposure, but you spent a big part of your time in North India and then you came to South India. What is, if you could say, what are one or two differences have you noticed when it comes to devotion, when it comes to bhakti, between the two, north versus south?
I should say the North India, there is more bhakti movement there. There are people just get very emotional, and they feel with their surroundings, their
Mm,
temples. They feel with Krishna. They feel with Rama. See, that's
mm,
what I found there, and they don't attach much importance to the rituals. They do have their rituals. They have their own way of. All the like pujas and offerings and everything, but still they are more like bhajan oriented. They do bhajans, and they have that holy bath, when they all come
mm.
together, means the whole city comes together at that place.
Correct.
They gather there, it's purely bhakti there. Like, they really feel, because once I remember one of my friends telling me that when she went to Brindavan, and when she walked, there was little it was little those areas were little soiled and muddy, so
Hmm.
she wanted to wash her legs first in the river, on the banks. So when she did that, a local person who was sitting there, he was tending the cows, and he didn't like it. He said, "You've come here, you are seeing Yamuna Mataji. You have to take it and sprinkle that water on your head first. Don't put your foot first on into the
Mm,
water." That
mm.
kind of they feel Krishna there. They really feel Rama there. And now, of course, with Ayodhya Pratishtapana coming up, I can see so much of festivity and fervor. But in South, people are little resigned. I mean, they don't show their emotions that
Mm.
much, and they are more ritualistic and more oriented, and they just keep to themselves. Of course, the temple going, all that is there, but the emotions are not shown that much as in the North.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. That bhajan activity and that
Hmm.
satsang activity of the North, I couldn't agree more with
Yes,
you. I think that brings everybody together
exactly,
into that
exactly.
zone, and I feel that's why the community creation also happens more because
Hmm.
everybody is just focused on that. Versus when you're spending 4 hours on a ritual, probably
Hmm.
only the front row sitting next to the homa is more engaged. The rest are all just zoned out and doing whatever they have to do on their phones or something else. I think that's a very good observation. Very good observation. Now, have you noticed though that the this concept of a teacher and a disciple or a guru and a disciple is also more in the north versus the south?
It is more in the south, the guru and the disciple, and that's more in the south. And even the study is very deep, and the Shastra Pata, what they say, with the guru and the disciple are very, very. They do a deep study, whereas in the north they do have the ashrams, and they
Yeah.
focus more on Bhagavata, only the
Mm,
Bhagavata or the
mm.
Ramayana. These two are the things which are more focused. But I find there, if there is a Bhagavata lecture which is going to happen, they celebrate it like a wedding. They
Yeah.
make it so beautiful. The entire city is decorated, and the mandap is all ready as though they're going to receive the bride and the groom. That kind of an atmosphere they create, and people also gather there in so many numbers. And those exponents there also, they make it very lively, and everybody participates. And I see one more thing: there's a lot of participation with all those people who attend. The audience also participate, whereas in the south it is a very, very formal, very formal it is, the teaching or whatever it is. But of course there's a lot of depth in the south. I
Yeah.
don't deny that. That is for definitely person who wants to know more, who wants to really get into the study, and for the elevation of the soul and the atma.
Yeah.
They want to know about the paramatma and all that. South is a better way of approach, I feel.
Yeah. As they say, the gods came from the north and the acharyas came from the south. So,
South, yes.
so let's now segue that into a related topic. Let's link that to a related topic. What does I'll start with a bit of basic. What does God mean to you, Ma? What does God mean to you?
Well, God, this definitely there is a super power uh, which is beyond our comprehension. Uh, it's very difficult to comprehend him because, see, we think we are doing so many things. But
Mm,
say, for example, even yesterday, we had that technical problem, and we were so set with everything. And so,
correct.
in fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, "Adhishtanam tata karta."
Mhm,
In that 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he
mhm.
says, the effort, human effort should be is there, then the conducive atmosphere is there, and everything is perfect, but then things don't happen.
Yeah.
Why? So there he Krishna says that is the Daivastu Panchamam, the fifth important thing, that aspect which happens there is God's grace. So I strongly believe in that, and I have also experienced in my life in so many ways God's grace. So God is and one more thing is God is he's not like, we should not approach him like a businessman. I mean,
Mm,
we just
mm,
trying to it becomes a business, like Prahalada in Bhagavata says, you're a vanik means a businessman, a trader. You do something and you want to get something from that. That's okay. Even Krishna says arthartho jigyaso gyani cha darshaba, he says
mhm.
in Bhagavad Gita. So there are different ways people are approaching God, but uh, God is, I feel, is a he doesn't discriminate, because we can with examples we can prove that. People say that he discriminates, he has created few people very poor, or somebody handicapped, and so many things and all that. But with shastra, true shastra pata, we come to know about all his auspicious qualities, and he's there, he's palpable. God is palpable. If we should feel him, we should experience him from within. That's what I feel.
Very well said. I think you're very correct in that relation in how you relate to God, because it's not like when you think about God, that your problems go away and everything go away. No, but you tend to understand it better, and you tend to learn how to deal with it better, and that's where I think, to your point, the transactional aspect then goes away, because if the transaction aspect still resides, then your ask is, let my problem go away. But
Hmm.
if it is the other way, where you understand it and you start dealing with it, then you're not asking for the problem to go away. It is what it is, and you will deal with it. Deal with
Exactly.
it. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Now,
And one thing I
yeah,
observe is
yeah,
it gives mental strength. It
yes,
definitely, the problems may not go away. The
yes.
problems sometimes it gets reduced, and but it gives you the mental strength to approach the problem.
It's interesting you say that, because just after yesterday's incident we had with the technical issues and everything, my immediate, for a second in my mind, I was like, um, it's unfortunate there were so many people anticipating this live telecast of ours, and they were all waiting. I got the calls after that. I'm like, so unfortunate. But then I immediately clicked saying, what a wonderful opportunity that we can redo it, number one, and do it properly. But also there was a learning in it, saying, next time if I'm doing something so long distance as I am with India, well, like Chennai where you are now, maybe I should probably adopt a recording method versus a live telecast method. So there it is, right? And that gave me comfort right away, saying, yeah, the problem is probably still going to happen, but at least if I deal it that way, then even if a problem happens, we can address it. Uh,
Actually, I feel problems are a learning process. That's how I approach it.
very well said. Very well said. Very well said. So let's continue on that thought, and I want to link it a little bit to your personal side as well. Um, you have a very, when I use the word successful, I mean successful in all respects, not just wealth, but successful in health, approach, and attitude. You have a very successful child of yours who's doing well. How What was your role in grooming up your son? What was your role? How did you inculcate some of the values in him?
Mm, like since I was more into spirituality and all this, I wanted my son to have an early Upanayanam. That is the thread ceremony we do in our community.
Very important.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so even when he was, I think it was in same in Puttige Swamiji's Paryaya, he had his Upanayana when he was just 7 years old. And in fact, that day Swamiji did Vamana Alankara to Krishna, because Sham was having his
Mm,
Upanayana on that day at the temple premises. And and then immediately after that, I made sure he attended the summer camps which was held in our temple premises. You know,
mm,
every summer we used to have the shibiras. We call it the shibiras.
mhm,
And so I was very strict that he had to attend those. It was like 4 year course and a 5 year course. So every year he used to attend that. He used to be away from home for almost 20 25 days. But I wanted that to happen, because only then he will know the importance of home. And we should not be pampering him all the time.
yeah.
So I sent him like that. And we were very strict with in his formative years, both my husband and me, in his Sandhya Vandana. We said, whatever you do, you don't do, it's okay, but Sandhya Vandana you must do, because I explained to him the Gayatri mantra, the Diyo Yona Prachodaya, then the
Mhm,
connect with the sun and the atmosphere and all that. And then another thing we did was, we had a special teacher for him.
mm,
Like he used to, every day, not every day, like weekends, and whenever there was time, the we had a special teacher appointed, who used to come home and teach him the suktas and Bhagavad Gita and all these things. So in that way, his formative years were, I think, a little, we had put in a lot of effort at that time. To, of course, later when he as a teenager, he had a lot of studies to do, and then,
correct.
everything was there. But still, his school was also a good supportive system for him. They had a good supportive system, because his second language was Sanskrita.
Mm,
So in that way, I we made sure he took his second language. He was also liking it, so he did Sanskrit. And so he was taught Bhagavad Gita. His teacher took special interest, and he knew the Bhagavad Gita. And they did some Sanskrit dramas about our heroes and our past, the kings and all that. These topics they used to take, and they used to have cultural programs and all that. So that also helped him. And later on, when he left for his medical school, like I used to, in fact, take him sometimes when I go for some lectures or something. Sometimes I used to just take him, and then, or come back after a lecture, then I just casually, as I said, we sit and eat together in the dinner table, just casually talk to him about what I had heard, or these kind of things I used to. That was the thing. We didn't sermonize at all, both of us. We never sermonized. And as I said, my husband also was very punctual in his whatever his duties. He was very methodical, very disciplined. He was, in spite of his busy schedule, like, he used to make an abridged version of whatever he has to do that day. He will finish it and then go to his work. It was like that. So I think observing also, children learn a lot, because today my son tells me that Appa used to do this, Appa used to do that. So that this does give a lot of impact, or impact on the children. And later, when he left for medical school, the only thing I told him was, be with good friends, make good friends. See, because even in the Bhagavata, Kapila Upakyana, and
Hmm.
where Mother Devahuti, she talks to Kapila. She wants to know about dharma. She wants to know
Yeah.
about so many spiritual aspects of life. So that time, the first thing Kapila says is, make good friends, be in satsanga, make means get in touch with somebody holy or like-minded people. Get in touch with them and be among them. So when you're there like that, then definitely I think 50% or 60% of your problem is solved. Like so that also helps a lot. So that's what I advised him. And fortunately, there also he did have good friends, and so that's how he moved on. But I let him free also. He had his birthday funds, and he used to go and with hang out with his friends, go for movies, and sleep over with his friends. Even in college, like, we never forced anything on him. But I felt that strong base which we had given him, maybe that helped him to uh, be what he is today.
Super impressive. To the parents listening, I think this is probably going to be the most important segment of this whole talk. Parents who are listening and trying to deal with how to bring up their children and inculcate a sense of discipline. I think this is the key segment there, because there's a few key takeaways there I really learned. And thank you for being such an amazing parent, and to your husband for being so great parents to your son. Because one is getting the Upanayana done at the right age, or at least getting it done, even if it's whatever age, at least getting it done, and then inculcating that there has to be some follow up to that. In fact, a long ask even from me has been for me to do an episode on Sandhyandanam in my weekly videos, which I will hopefully do it very soon, because there is this paradox and this dichotomy and confusion that exists in people saying, if I cannot do Sandhyandanam, is there something else I can do? And the answer to your point, you mentioned it, is the meaning, the benefit of the Sandhyandanam is actually in that Gayatri and the meaning of that, right? So, yes,
Hmm.
we call it as Sandhyandanam, but it is really in the components of it. So, there could be ways of accommodating that. But clearly, a takeaway from your observation itself is Upanayinam, Sandhyandanam. And I love the third thing you said, which is on a weekly basis, you had, like you have swimming, like you have music, like you have math, you had some dedicated time of scriptural teaching. Or it could be suktas, it could be mantras, it could be some small hymns that are said, but that was also part of the routine. And that is something I feel we don't do that. I don't think we do that
Hmm.
much at all. In fact, I'm very excited to see in the US we do that more nowadays than
Yes.
even when I was growing up in India. I didn't see that happen, but in the US at least it's happening more and more, where on a weekly basis you have some dedicated 30, 45 minutes, whatever that could be, right? That is happening. And lastly, the other two things which you said was, one, you never sermonized it. You just let him be who he is and deal with it. And then the guidance that you just said, which is be in the company of good friends. Um, yeah, I say children are our biggest investment with no returns. The only return is avoid the ditches, stay on the road. That's all it is. As
Yes.
long as they do that, that is the only return you would want as a parent.
Exactly, exactly.
As a parent.
But one more thing I would do was, when he was getting ready for school in the morning, I used to play the Vishnu Sahasranama, or the Dasar Padas, everything very loudly, so that he has memorized it because of that. As I used to get him ready to, even as when he was in third grade, fourth grade, I used to make sure as soon he wakes up, the record will be on. So that constant listening has also he's made it easy for him to memorize these things, and it still, he says, it remains with him.
Fantastic, fantastic. Let's continue that discussion then, and bring the topic of dharma now into the mix.
Hmm.
So help us, help just in general, anybody listening, when somebody says, because the dharma term is used quite loosely, uh, it's used quite loosely, then it gets even compounded by putting the word sanatana in front of it, and then people are like, okay, all those are great for understanding terminology, but what does it really mean? So help us a bit by your perspective on what you think is dharma, and then also then let's talk about what can an individual do to actually be dharmic.
Mhm. Okay. Uh, Actually, dharma is this word is very unique to Bharata Desha. You can say, like we hear dharma very often. It's connected to Bharata Desha, and many of us relate dharma to religion or going to temple or a pilgrimage or celebrating festivals, and religiosity is more given importance. Like when you say dharma, immediately your mind goes to these things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, no doubt, it is a part of dharma. Of course, it dharma does is not complete without that. But dharma is very subtle. Actually, it signifies a behavior that is in accord with what we call the rita. That means some intuitiveness, which is subconsciously it guides you, the inner conscious, in doing the right things, right conduct, virtues, the right way of living. So these things are actually the inner conscious tells you. So that is the dharma. That is dharma, and it has two broad aspects. Actually, dharma has two broad aspects. You can say, like the shastras and the sampradayas. We
Mm-hmm.
have the shastras. You can say, like how we say achara vichara. That is the documentation. Like in science, we say the theory and the practical. We
Yeah.
have the theory class and the practical class. So similarly, we can say dharma has two broad aspects, and we are more focused on the sampradaya rather than the shastras. That is a mistake we are making. So achara should be there, but without vichara it becomes superstitious. So only sampradaya means it becomes superstitious. But at the same time, only vichara without any discipline or those rituals and all that, it becomes a mere intellectual somersault, I feel.
Correct.
So we are all evolving souls. So we need both. We need a balance of both. We cannot deny that there should not be any sampradaya or rituals or anything. That is the practical part. Because with that, when we know the proper meaning of what we are doing, I think then we get involved in doing those things. So these two things are very important. And dharma, they say, is in Sanskrita, they define dharma as dharakatva dharma. That means something
Mm-hmm.
that should sustain. It should sustain. It should make the person tread a path which yields positive results. Like it should build the society, and that action should not put you to shame. So any action that does not put you to shame, we can call that as a dharma. There should be integrity, it should bring things together. It should not, at all levels, individual levels, at social level, it should bring, rather than tearing it apart, with selfish uh, your uh, your selfishness. And there should be harmony. Suppose we think of an action, or savior, any thought that comes to us, there shouldn't be too much of conflict in the mind. If
Mm.
there's too much of conflict in the mind, then maybe it is little adharmic, because the inner conscious always keeps telling you, that's we call it in shastra sakshi. There is a
Mm-hmm.
sakshi within you that keeps talking to you, but you want to avoid that. Then the conflict arises in the mind. So, and then there should be positive longevity in whatever action or whatever thoughts you develop. Like it should not give you just momentary pleasures. They should give a long time. And a rule is that it should give a higher level of joy. Whatever you decide on, that should be giving you a higher level of joy and more satisfaction when you do that. So these things are dharma. I think these are the dharma. And of course, in joy, Hindu dharma always talks about sacrifice, no, selfless
Mhm.
giving. It could be a physical, like you could physically give up something valuable or something dana or something like that, share with people around you, those who are in need and all that. But along with that, even your time, like you spend time with somebody who's like who is in really in need, they will need your help, and you have so many things, of course, your priorities are there. But then that moment, if somebody needs you, you be there, you're spending your time with them. So even those things, it's a selfless giving, so these things are dharma. Having said all this, there is a thumb rule, I think, Maheshji, for dharma. uh, like what we can say is the intention behind every act is very important. That makes an act, it as a dharmic attitude, dharmic thing, or a adharmic karma, whatever you say. Like suppose, see, the Pandavas and Kauravas, they fought.
Yeah.
The Pandavas also fought and the Kauravas also fought. But the intention behind the Pandavas were to set up a good society, to make the society very have a positive this thing in the society. Whereas the Kauravas were very selfish. They didn't even want to share 5 villages with the Pandavas, ultimately. So but we call Pandavas also fought, Kauravas also fought, but we call them Pandavas dharmic and Kauravas adharmic. Why? This is the reason. The intention
Intention.
behind the action is very, very important, I feel, for making anything dharmic, So, dharma doesn't happen with brainstorming and discussions and outside. It should happen within you, When you think of something, a thought or an action, the brainstorming should happen within you. Then you know whether what you're doing is really dharma or adharma, that is more important. And of course, as you said, lot of divisions are there. Like you can classify dharma as sanatana dharma, samajika dharma, vayaktika dharma. The samajika dharma is sanatana dharma is all these human values, what I was telling you about, the
Yeah.
that unwavering mind, the driti, then forgiveness. Cleanliness also is a very important dharma. Cleanliness from within you as well as outside you, the cleanliness should be there. Then shamadama, they say controlling of
Mhm.
senses. These are all the sanatana dharma, which is applicable to everybody in universal. It's not to a particular section of community or particular sect of people or something like that. It is a mula manukula dharma, they say, these are the sanatana dharmas. Of course, then we have the samajika dharma and the vayaktika dharma. Samajika dharma keeps changing, depends on the yuga, and there are so many smritis like Parashara Smriti, Manusmriti, all these are there. So they have code of laws for that particular time of this thing. So that is some that can keep changing also. Like we have this child marriage in North India. We used to have very, it was once upon a time, it was dharma there for them, but now it's irrelevant. Why they did it was maybe because of the Mughal invasions and the Britishers invasion, just to protect their women, protect their girl children, they maybe they had did it for that, but now it's not relevant. So the samajika, it was dharma at that time but not now. So samajika dharma keeps changing, but sanatana dharma is always remains the same. And then you have, of course, the vayaktika dharma. That depends on the individual, where he is placed in life. Everybody has a prescribed duty, I think, a specific role to play in the society. And so like we have the, of course, the four varna system and all that is there. That's why Krishna says Sve sve karmanya virataha samsiddhim labate naraha. That
Yeah.
means every person devoted in his service with dedication along with spiritual knowledge is bound to obtain liberation, So you need not think that I should be a brahmana or I should be so and so or a holy person or a sannyasi. That is not necessary. Wherever you're placed in life, even as I say, for a parenting is a tapas. I should say parenting is a tapas. It's because you have been given the responsibility of some jiva. He's come to your house with your God has given it to you, so you should take full care of it and to bring it up in the right way. So that's a parenting is a big tapas. If you do that properly, that itself is your dharma. So everywhere we should see dharma, like in the same way, different stages of life we have: brahmacharya, vanapra, grihastha, like the householder, the student life. Then you become senior citizen with your experience, how you should be able to bring the family together, pass on your experiences to them. These are all the dharmas, I feel. And one more thing I would like to add here is, see whatever said and done, we have suppose a farmer is there, and he's plowed the field very well, and he is ready, everything is ready, and but he doesn't sow any seeds. Okay, so it doesn't mean anything, like he can look for a good harvest without sowing the seeds. He cannot expect a good harvest, he has to sow the seed. So similarly, all these dharmas become meaningful only when we have a higher goal with these dharmas. These dharmas itself are not the goals. That dharma should have a higher goal in your life, and that is what is depicted in our shastras by that swastik
Mhm.
chinha which we see in the Hindu
Mhm.
culture, which is very often used for every auspicious function.
Yeah.
That is, when we have the good human values, we can connect well with the society around you. And that is one part of dharma. Whereas, if that is only the horizontal line, the swastika has two lines, horizontal and
Yeah.
the vertical line. So the horizontal line is just you connect with your society, with your human values. But the vertical line, without that, it doesn't become a plus sign. So if it has to become plus, then you have to connect this dharma to God, ultimately the final creator, the almighty. you know then everything has a meaning for whatever you're doing. So that's why they say nana janasya susrusha kartavyam karavanmite. So nana janasya susrusha is your connect with the society, with all your human values, with your goodness, everything. But then what does that mean? That is the tax which you pay ultimately to the almighty Lord. So that is a kartavyam. Kara means tax. Kartavyam, that's your duty to, as a tax you pay to the Lord Almighty. So that's what
So,
I feel
no,
dharma is.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. There's a lot there that you mentioned and that we need to unpack. So let me just summarize a bit there because this is beautiful. Beautiful. I think it was like 4 or 5 minutes where you described this very well. I love the tagline. Dharma is really depends on your intent. And in many ways, you could say righteous intent means that you are on that path of dharma. And then the aspect of dharma should not uh, your action or your approach should not put you at shame. Rather, it should put you, even if it not at fame, at least it should not put you in shame. So
Exactly.
so clearly that is one very good takeaway from that. The other one was every aspect to be viewed as sacrifice that we do,
Mhm.
right? And every action, knowing pretty well that what you're doing should not put you at shame. Perform that action, but with that sacrifice mindset clearly, and then living that, which means in other ways, as you very well know in the Gita, the whole abhyasa aspect of it.
Mhm.
So living that on a daily basis, and then checking in. You use the term sakshi, but essentially checking in to say, am I actually doing that? Am
Mhm.
I almost like self introspection
Exactly.
and saying, am I actually doing that? Becomes like that fourth component of it. And the fifth one, which is fantastic, which I think surrounds all of that, is anything that you're doing, you can only call it dharma when it leads to harmony and
Mhm.
not divisibility. Um, so, whether it is your intent, whether it is your abhyasa, whether it is your self introspection, whether it is your sacrifice that you make, only when all of this leads to harmony and unity, then it essentially becomes dharmic in nature. Um, very well said there. Very well. You could almost make this the Panchasutra of Dharma. We could call it the five principles of Dharma here. Very well said. And I know you mentioned Bhagavatam a couple of times. What strikes me as well, when I went through Bhagavatam and the whole Kapila story, is like the mother asking the son for guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And one could say, well, Kapila in Bhagavatam, as you know, in between, Kapila almost takes on the role of an almighty and speaks.
Yes.
Um, but I think the message there I took out is, it is the humility where,
Mm-hmm.
as they say, as Krishna says in Gita, right, you approach a spiritual master with humility. So it's almost like the
Exactly.
mother is now approaching Kapila with humility and saying,
E-
teach me, tell me.
Yes. Yes.
Um, that I thought, I know you mentioned, because when you mentioned Bhagavatam a couple of times, it immediately clicked that humility is part of what I believe is also part of Dharma, that needs
Exactly.
to go in there.
Definitely. Definitely. Yes.
Um, Fantastic. Now, so for an individual on a daily basis,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk in a professional life. Maybe one or two examples, since you have been in that life as well. It's not like you have been you have been a hermit, but you have seen the real world. What, just one or two examples of what an individual can do on a daily basis to be dharmic, like in their daily life. It could be at work, it could be in their family. What could be one or two things? Because there are occasions where we have to take decisions which probably could be construed as adharmic.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So, one or two thoughts that come to your mind. No right or wrong answer, just share your thoughts.
Like, what I would say is, like, have a discipline in your routine. You
Mm.
must have a discipline in your
Mm.
routine. Uh, uh, See, the mind is habitually, it's distracted, it
Mm.
forgets. So many people, I don't know, I don't know whether I should say this. They say, I am mentally connected.
Mm.
Okay, that, but then I feel physically also there should be some kind of I don't call it a ritual, but some kind of connect should be there, which you like, make sure every day you do this 15 minutes in the morning. Like, they do yoga, and so many things are there. Similarly, connect with the god 15 minutes in the morning or evening, whatever time is available for you, whatever the this thing, so that because of that, the mind, which habitually it otherwise which forgets and is distracted, can be brought into, like, what I say, more of like a contemplation. At that time, those 15 minutes you can spend in those things. In fact, like, if you like um, uh, observe things around you, and from that also you learn a lot of things. We should be very observant, and prayer is chanting of shlokas or anything like that also. It's not necessary you have to sit in one place and
Yeah.
you do it.
Yeah.
You can, as you keep doing your work or everything, those things should be at the back of your mind. Even that is a kind of prayer to god, I feel. Prayer, I mean, gratitude. You're showing. See, prayer is nothing but expression of gratitude. That's
Mm-hmm.
all. The
Mm-hmm.
things, the abundant things which he has given you. You're just showing a little bit of gratitude every day to him. But why I'm saying that it should be physical and not mental alone? Because our children are observing us.
Yes.
So this is one way we have to pass on our. Although we may be elevated to say that I can do it mentally, but the children who are there around you, they don't know that. So they don't know that you're doing it mentally. So chant shlokas in the mantras in the morning, as you were, even when you start having your bath, you just start it and just keep chanting it as you come out, and then as you get dressed. All these things, these are all small things you can do to keep in connect and make the children also observe you, because children do observe you a lot. So you have to do that, I feel. And as I said, you should have one meal together. Everybody in the family should have one meal together, at least sit together, and make sure you pray before that meal. And at that time you can have these kinds of discussion. Even that is a prayer. Any discussion like what we are doing right now is also a prayer to God. So everything which is a positive energy, whatever creates positive energy is created. You can, then you, maybe if you don't have time every day, you have that discipline, you must have that discipline. If you don't have, you carry on that. But along with that, say a monthly basis or once in 2 months, try to arrange for an adhyatma related functions. Something like a bhajan at home, or you have a small workshop with your children and their friends, get them together. You take the initiative,
Yeah,
and you can do, you can just play games, even through games or anything like that, but make them think. Maybe you can, depending on the age of the child, or the person, I mean your child or your children, you can give them a small, what I say, a topic, what they think about God, what they feel, who they are, what is rebirth, these kind of things, make them write something, get them, and then have a nice party after that, give them pizzas and everything, so they will enjoy it, actually they will. And such kind of discussions we can have. And these things, I think, in a way will help in, making, passing on our traditions and the culture, making known to our children in this way. So you personally do it, keep aside few minutes every day, plus you involve the entire family also in doing it.
absolutely, absolutely. Very well said. Now, I know we mixed up dharma, and we also talked a lot about the role of people, to your point, parents and everybody in doing it. Um, just in a couple of minutes, if you could specifically highlight, um, what is the role of a purusha, in this case the meaning of a purusha meaning a man, what is the
Mhm.
role of a purusha and how does that differ when it comes to dharma? Is there something that you would say a man has to do this specifically more than, let's say, a mom or a mother or a woman? So maybe a couple of things that specifically is towards the purusha.
Yeah, actually, see, the Shastras actually don't discriminate as
Correct.
Purusha Dharma and Stri Dharma.
Correct.
You know why? Because but it prescribes distinct dharmas for men and women.
Yeah.
That's because I feel, because of the physical, psychological, social, spiritual makeup of a man is different from the woman, which we have to accept. Whether we like it or not, we have to accept it. So I feel that austerity, tapasya, ritual performance, these are all more suited to a man than a woman. A
Hmm.
woman is more, devotion, service oriented. Such things, a woman is more, she can handle it better. Whereas a man, that's why I think the Varnashrama dharmas, which we call uh, they have voiced it in terms of, for the Purusha, the austerities and the rituals. So actually, if you want to like relate it to the present day and make it very diluted, it's very hard. It's very hard to dilute the subject, because first of all, we must know why we have come into the samsara. The samsara is not, it is not the end. It's only a means. It's a means. So there we have been given the framework of dharma, artha, kama and moksha. So they have given us artha and they have given us kama. That doesn't mean we should not be enjoying. They're saying you enjoy. That's why they're
Correct.
giving us artha. That's why they're giving us karma. Karma is nothing but desires, all the desires which we have. So have everything. Nobody is denying you. The Shastras don't deny all these things for you. They don't say you must become a sannyasi to attain moksha. Nothing like that. So be in the samsara, but make sure that the artha and kama are channelized between dharma and moksha. You know,
Mm.
dharma, it should be dharmic and it should lead you towards moksha. So your action should be like that. So that you should first understand. And then secondly, secondly, see, a man is born with five runas, basically, which you cannot deny. So he's born with the rishi runa, a pitru runa, a deva runa, a manushya runa, and a bhuta runa. So these five runas, if man can handle these five runas in whatever simple way he can, I think he has done his day. I know he's lived a fulfilled life, I can say. Because even in Krishna says saha yajna praja srishtva, he has Chaturmukha Brahma created this whole cosmos with the yajnas, along with these yajnas. So these yajnas are nothing but our ordained duties which we have to discharge to be a subject in this world. And so in that we have the rishi runa, which says the study of your knowledge system, whatever
Yeah.
system you belong to, and you pass it on to your the next generation, you know. So like a brahmana, you are studying the scriptures, you're learning, and you that adhyatma knowledge is passed on not only for your benefit but for the entire society. It is done for that. And then like everything we enjoy, the weavers do, they weave the clothes, we enjoy wearing it. When somebody builds, the architects build, so everything we are enjoying. We are not the founders actually, so we are enjoying that parampara, you know. So that parampara, wherever you are coming from, you have to pass it on. That's a purusha dharma. He has to make sure he pass it on to his next generation. That is one of his dharma. And then the pitru runa is definitely a very big indebtedness we have towards our ancestors.
Hmm.
Here again we are mistaken. We think we are offering something to our ancestors, you know. But the shastras actually say so. That's why I said, if we know the real definition of what we are doing, then we will be more inclined in
Correct.
doing those things.
Correct.
So the pitrus are a set of devatas. They are actually given the portfolio of reaching your offerings to your ancestors, to wherever they are, in whichever situation they are in. So that is actually the pitru yajna you are doing. It's a yajna. It's called. It's not. It's not something very inauspicious. People think doing pitru karya is inauspicious. It is a most auspicious thing, because you're repaying your indebtedness to the DNA which you are carrying for so many generations. They have given you are what you are today because of them. So just remembering them. And you it's like how, many people ask, oh, do if I do the pindadana here or the tarpana here, does it reach my ancestors? Yes, it does. It does through these pitru devatas. It's just like a money transfer, you know. You send in dollars, we receive in rupees, and we send in rupees and you receive in dollars. Similarly, the pitrus take care of our ancestors wherever they are. And so that is our duty. So it's just one day in a year. See, we are not asking you to sit 365 days and doing tarpana and pindadana, just one day of the year. So make sure you do that. The purusha is supposed to do that, and the stri is supposed to help him around when he is doing that, whatever ritual is connected with
Yeah.
it in the shastras. So that is one purusha dharma he has to do. And of course, devaruna, I told you, like every day in the morning,
Yeah.
spend 15 minutes. And just because again, in the Gita, if you know the reason, I think you will be able to connect better. Like you say, devan bhavayata nena te deva bhavayantu vaha, parasparam bhavayanta. So this is a mutual admiration between yourself and the devatas who have offered you everything in life. So that's why Krishna says evam pravartitam chakram. So this is how
Hmm.
you do for them and they do for you. So if you know this concept, then whatever the shastras tell you to do, you will be like you'll have that inclination, you will have the conviction to do what you're doing, so that is one way of this thing. Of course, manusya dharuna, we have like taking care of our fellow beings
Yep.
welfare and all those things are there. And then the bhuta runa we have, like taking care of the cows. That is one thing which we can do, I think, as a purusha, as a family, I know, but particularly as a purusha, every day put aside just say $1 again aside for to take care of the cows, because they are the go matas, they're giving you everything, the milk. I mean, I'm sure everybody enjoys ice cream, milkshakes, everything. So where it does it come from? These thoughts, should make you, this should start, like from within you, these churning should happen. And from that, you then why you are doing these actions. And then it becomes whatever, whether you have little time or no time, you somehow you try to work around it, and you try to do few things. So putting away, like say $1 every day, or few cents every day for this bhutaruna, taking care of the cows, or taking care of the in fact, shastra say if you cut one tree, you have to plant 10 trees, and if you cut a big tree, then you have to plant 100 trees. So that is the this thing the shastras have towards the environment, and all these things. So how much we should be involved in those things. So when we know all these things, I think we'll be better connected, and we will know, we will be like no do it, then we will know why we should do it, then we really will apply our mind and do it. Otherwise we think, oh, it's all age old grandma stories, so that's what I
Fantastic.
feel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know we are a little bit over time, but this was a good topic. Just to summarize this, this is a common thing, and a lot of individuals today struggle with the runas or the debts, as you said, in fulfilling them. But even if you were to look at it a little bit more spiritual, you can still achieve those. So, to your point, Rishi Runa, with continued learning, spiritual learning, you can definitely understand that, understand the messages, and what you need to do to your ancestors. You can absolutely do it by service. Sometimes it is service to your own family as well, and to the extended
E-
family. You're
exactly,
you're
exactly.
you're you're doing that.
Yes,
Clearly, service to the broader humanity follows in that, the third type of runa. And the fourth one, service to nature in general, where back to the cow and all of that comes as part of that, right? That you treat everybody in that regard, and offer that service in that relation. So what I always find is that, yes, even if you are having trouble believing this religiously,
hmm,
you can still achieve that even from a spiritual mindset, by looking at it from a different direction. And
exactly,
ultimately, probably you would end up making a bigger impact, because now you're looking at it even bigger, and broader for that. So,
exactly.
to your point, understanding the meaning of this becomes
Hmm,
important. And I love it, where that's why achara vichara that you mentioned is
hmm,
so critical, because too much achara makes you a blind,
exactly,
it makes you
exactly.
blind, um, and
And
makes you do with fear,
you
um,
do it with fear, or either you give up the whole thing.
or you give up. Exactly.
Mm.
Whereas which only vichara doesn't make it real for you,
Mm-hmm.
because only mental doesn't make it real, because you, after all, you are a physical, you are in this physical being at the end of this day, so you need
Yes.
something physical there. So that combination of achara vichara, I think, is so critical, so crucial for that. I know we didn't get time to spend time on moksha, but I would love to have a follow up at some point and go deeper onto
Mm-hmm.
moksha, because again, there is a
Okay.
lot of misconceptions around moksha and what it is. Particularly when, if I'm doing all of this that we discussed in the last 1 hour, dharma, I'm doing all the runas maybe in a broader way or in a narrow way, whatever it is, right? Then why are you again having me go on to something that happens after death when when I could be of more service right now, right? So we'll talk more about that moksha in a later topic and in a later discussion and take out all the misconceptions. This has been very helpful. Personally, it's been an amazing learning for me as well, and I'm sure it will be for our viewers. Anuradhaji, I have nothing but some humble, simple gratitude to you for spending time and taking some time and sharing some insights. I think this is super valuable for parents, for practitioners. I think this is hugely valuable. Any closing thoughts? Any closing comments before we end this episode?
In fact, I got a WhatsApp message today regarding that. Recently, there was a Japanese flight. The
Yeah.
mishap happened in
Yep.
Japan,
Yep.
and when they were analyzing how all of them were saved, all the passengers were saved. They said
Correct.
so. One of the thing they said was the Japanese are committed to discipline. So that really, it really, I felt that impressed me a lot. So that discipline should be there in every aspect of our life. So I think discipline is very, very important. And I think with this, like, just the same thing can apply to, like, we say, the elevation of the atma. If we need, then we have to have some discipline and follow the spiritual injunctions, and develop a deeper, so that we go unscathed in this samsara. That's my
Very good.
uh,
Very well said. Thank you again. Thank you so much. I look forward in speaking with you again and go deeper on a couple more topics. But thanks again, and once again, gratitude to you. We'll talk to you soon.
I'm thankful so much to you, Maheshji, for giving me such a wonderful opportunity, and looking forward to having more interactions with you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.